Part B, Directions. In this part of the test, you will hear longer conversations and answer questions about them. While you listen, you will see the answer choices for the questions that follow. After you hear each conversation, you will hear the questions one at a time, and you will see the answer choices on the screen. After you hear a question, read the answer choices and click on the best answer to the question. You will hear the conversations and the questions about them only one time. Now, we will begin Part B with the first conversation. Click Next to go to the next screen. Questions 31 through 33. Listen to part of a conversation in an art class.
Oil paints have certain characteristics that make them very attractive to artists. With oil paints, darker colors especially have a richness and vibrancy. With other types of paint, darker colors like black or dark brown sometimes look a bit gray or washed out. And it's also possible with oil paints to make very subtle changes with color, so you can have a seamless transition from, say, a light pink to a deep red. Yes, Tom?
So, would you say oil paints are better than water-based paints?
Water-based paints, they're perhaps better known as watercolor paints, do have some limitations. For example, they certainly look best when the colors aren't too dark or too light. And there are some things artists can do with oil paints that they can't do with watercolors. Some interesting techniques like impasto.
Impasto? What's impasto?
Well, impasto is a technique of layering oil paint to give the painting a great deal of texture. I mean, the layering is so thick that it gives the painting an almost sculptural level of depth.
Oh, like in that Rembrandt painting you pointed out when our class visited the museum? I noticed that he painted some jewelry that actually stuck out from the canvas.
Yes, though that painting really needs to be restored. Like many oil paintings, it was covered in a coat of varnish. The varnish was clear when it was first applied, but over time it made the painting appear dull and yellowish.
Number 31. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 32. According to the professor, what colors appear rich and vibrant with oil-based paints? Number 33. What quality does the impasto technique give a painting? Questions 34 through 37. Listen to part of a conversation between a student and his engineering professor.
Professor Norris, I had a question about something you mentioned yesterday. Some kind of paper, nano...
Nanopaper. That's N-A-N-O. Nanopaper. An exciting application of nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology?
We'll get to that in tomorrow's lecture. But briefly, nanotechnology is the manipulation of materials at the molecular level.
Wow. So, like nanopaper, it's really tiny paper?
Not exactly, but it's made from microscopic fibers. Each one's only about 10 nanometers thick. That's thousands of times thinner than a single strand of hair.
That's amazing.
It is. And these nanofibers, well, they're made of cellulose. That's the same plant material used for making regular paper. But the nanopaper is over 200 times stronger than conventional paper, stronger than cast iron, almost as strong as steel.
But how, if the nanofibers are so thin, how can they be that strong?
Do you remember when we discussed the mechanical processes used to make paper from wood pulp? Well, these processes damage the cellulose fibers, which greatly reduces their strength. But this new method uses enzymes to break down the wood pulp. Also, the undamaged cellulose fibers join together into networks, forming a kind of tightly bound mesh.
So, what would you do with this kind of paper?
Well, researchers have proposed numerous uses, from the obvious, like durable material for packing, in boxes and such, to even parts for cars and aircraft. Nanopaper's inexpensive to produce compared to other nanoproducts. So, who knows what the applications may be? The possibilities are wide open.
Number 34. Why does the student go to see the professor? Number 35. Why does the professor mention hair? Number 36. What does the professor say about the process of producing conventional paper? Number 37. What contributes to the strength of nanopaper? This is the end of Part B. Click Next to go on.